Appreciation. I appreciate you watching this information. Today we are talking about appreciation. Probably one of my favorite topics to talk about is appreciation. So again, the disclosure, the disclaimer, this is for information purposes only. I am a licensed real estate broker as well as a real estate investor. Blah. So appreciation, make sure you check with your tax professionals or other financial advisors if you want more information. But for real estate purposes, I believe that the realtors, really provide value to their customers when they are able to explain appreciation and, most importantly, show the appreciation of the market to their customers. What do I mean by that? So let's take a look at appreciation. Let's say, you obviously need to know what category class you're buying. Appreciation in a condo residential market might not be the same as single family homes. Appreciation in multi-use facilities, for example, strip malls of a certain size, might not be the same rate as hospitals. Appreciations for funeral buildings or that type of facility might not be the same as it is for a chemical treatment plant. I don't know. So you definitely need to know what class you're talking about. So that's first, the class of the property. Two is you need to know where you are. The appreciation rates, obviously we have national averages, but the appreciation rates in the middle of the desert in Las Vegas is not going to be the same as it is in downtown Miami. The appreciation rates in downtown Miami are not going to be the same as in downtown New York. Even in downtown Miami, the appreciation rates in downtown Miami versus Midtown, that is 36 blocks away, isn't even the same in that scenario. So you need to know where it is. So location. Next, the appreciation. We have two types of appreciation. We have natural appreciation, which is obviously driven by the economy. That's just what happens with the market. People buy and sell, the things move, things are going well. The properties are moving, so that's natural, that's economic appreciation. The second appreciation, and this is probably for us investors the most exciting, is what we call forced. What's forced appreciation? Well, forced appreciation is if I have this marker and it's white and I want to provide value, or the film on it is all scratched up, I put a nice little dollar around it, and now I have this beautiful $1 market. So that $1 investment that I put into improving the visual looks, maybe the performance of the marker is the same, but the visual looks of the marker has now improved the value, possibly, I like to say possibly, has improved the value of this marker by $1. Now that's a very simple explanation. Now, for example, in strip malls or in multifamily housing, let's say your building is in overall good shape. Let's say it's a class B. So we have A, B, C, and D. So let's say it's a class B. It's not class A because it's not new construction. Let's say class B, it was probably built in 2010, so it's just about 9-10 years old. So it's a class B. But in some areas, you're starting to have some deferred maintenance. You had some water issues, some ponding issues, so you might have some peeled paint, you might have some settling, you might have some cracking, etc. So just overall, the building kind of needs a touch-up. So let's say that touch-up on that $1 million investment property that you have was $30,000. Well, depending on how the market is doing, you now might be able to sell that building for $1,050,000. So that $30,000 that you put in might actually be worth $50,000. Now, if all the buildings around there are selling for $1 million in good shape, means that they're already painted and they're very similar to what you have, just because you put $30,000 into it doesn't mean that you're going to make that money back. Maybe all it allows you to do is to sell that property at $1 million versus $900,000, because that future buyer might come in and lowball you and say, hey, you know, this building needs a new paint job. You know, I'm going to get a few contractors out here and the highest quote is $75,000 and I got to account for contingencies. So my offer is $900,000. So maybe that $30,000 investment allows you to sell it for $1 million. That's what I mean by maybe. But forced appreciation, us investors, we love this. It's when you see a property that, for example, the market rents is, let's say for a one bedroom is $1,000. And the building, because it's a Class C, it's an older building, it's maybe 20, 30 years old, the landlord is tired, the management company isn't the greatest, the tenants that are there are kind of mixed. You have some really, really good ones, you have some that don't really upkeep their property. So you kind of have this mixed portfolio. Forced appreciation is when you come in that scenario, and again, this could be a multifamily housing, this could be in strip malls, where you have these locations. These could be even in condo offices. I've seen this happen in condo offices. So that's essentially what happens in that scenario is you go in, you buy the building, you purchase the building, you make these improvements, so you're forcing appreciation into it, which means you're putting money into the building in order to increase its value, and at the same time you have the natural economic appreciation that's happening. So this is where I think the realtor really needs to understand what is happening in their area. So when they ask, hey, what is the appreciation right now for the last year? How can they do this? Fairly simple. They can be done by square footage. A lot of the times it's done by square footage. A lot of the times it's done by price. There's different ways of doing it. For example, I personally don't like to just give out a number. The way that I always analyze it is I'm kind of looking for just that little bit more. If I was to tell you that appreciation is 3%, well, you might say, yeah, that's good. But then I say, well, you know, have you considered how many other units are in the market for sale? And then you're going to say, well, what do you mean? And I say, well, considering where we are right now, there is 10,000 active listings, and on a monthly basis, we are transacting 1,000 units per month. So we have a 10-month supply, which is healthy. Now you might say, okay, well, that's not bad, because unless there's more units coming out, so unless next month we list 2,000 units and we're only selling 1,000, well, you know, that's doing pretty good. If our active, you know, new listings is less than the listings that are being sold, that means that supply and demand, you know, we are on an upward scale economy, so that is looking good. Now, if I say, well, our appreciation is 3%, based on the economic factors and based on some forced appreciation that people have done, but we have 500 units transacting a month and our active listings is 20,000, well, you say, well, hold on a second. It's got to take, you know, there's 20,000 units for sale. We're doing 500 a month, so 20,000 divided by 500, that's going to take 40 months for me to sell all these units. So 40 months is, you know, 36, so 3 years and 4 months in order to sell out what we have. Well, now, what does that have to do with appreciation? So again, look more than just that one thing. And I don't want to be the bearer of good news, but the last thing I want is for my team and I to invest into something and then say, hey, you know, everything looked good, the appreciation looked good, and our exit strategy is 3 years down the road, but 3 years down the road, you know, there's 100,000 other units that are trying to be sold, so we can't sell this thing. So now what's our exit strategy? So make sure you understand it. So one of the examples that I like to say is, let's say you purchased a unit for $1 million. And let's say your We're not going to deal with forced appreciation because obviously that is much more in-depth analysis as to what can be improved, what type of tenancies can be improved, how your contracts can change, etc. Let's just look at the straight economic. So let's say it's at a 3% annual. So what does that allow us to do? If our holding strategy is, let's say, 5 years, pretty much what the formula to figure this out is you have a 5-year holding pattern or holding period. So that gives us 1.18, I believe. Let me do the math. And the formula for this is 1 plus the rate of appreciation, and then this right here is exponential to the holding period. So pretty much my formula is going to be 1 plus the rate of appreciation I said is 1%, 0.03, and it's got the holding period is 5 years. So if you do the math with me, 1 plus 0.03 exponential 5 years. See, I was wrong. 1.1592. Again, I'm a very analytical person, so some people will say, well, go ahead and round it to 1.16. I'll say, no, that's okay. We'll be conservative. It's 1.15. So that means that in a straight economic appreciation where all I'm considering is the $1 million investment, if now I take this 1.15, multiply it times the $1 million, that means that now, just based on appreciation on that factor, we should be able in a 5-year exit strategy sell this property for $1.15 million. Now in 2008, I'm sure there was a lot of people that had this strategy and were thinking about this. So we definitely need to understand where we are. I'm not sure where we are. I don't know if anyone can tell you that things are going to be great and beautiful for the next 5 years. We definitely want to think so, and this is why we invest in multifamily and we invest in certain things that can have, a more secure leasing term. For example, if you bought a medical facility right now and you leased it out, guess what? The baby boomer population are probably going to be utilizing a lot of medical facilities. So even in the next, let's say 2 years, if something was to happen and we had an adjustment in the economy, the likelihood of your medical facility going 50% lease occupancy is probably highly unlikely. Now, if you're buying, I'm not in the space, so I may be wrong, but if you're buying a very luxurious, condominium, which is, let's say, $1 million plus condominium or a $5 million condominium, and all of a sudden the economy shifts, well, the demand for that condo might not be as high. So then, your appreciation on that might be questionable. But anyways, in 2008, a lot of people had this strategy. They thought that we were, going up based on what they invested in 2006, 2005. Hey, we're having 3%, 4% growth, whatever. Our building is going to be worth all this money if we're going to hold it. Well, that didn't happen. So definitely understand where we are. There's another video that I did talking about the 10-year cycle. Historically speaking, every 10 years or so, real estate has done an adjustment. If you haven't seen that video, go ahead and watch it. Again, 2008 was the last time. We're in 2009. This video is being recorded in February of 2009. We haven't seen that adjustment yet, so maybe this is going to be a 12-year period. Maybe it's going to be a 15-year period. All I'm saying is that eventually there will be an adjustment. Maybe it will only be 10%. Hopefully it will be. Hopefully it'll be 5%. So guess what? If the appreciation is 3% and there's a 5% adjustment, this number gets adjusted to, I don't know, 2.90%. So instead of selling for 1.15 million, you sold it for 1.1 million. So, okay, you made $50,000 less. So again, you just need to consider where you're at. So going back to our 16 elements, and again, if you haven't seen my other video, go and check out, because I talk about this. When we look at appreciation, you know, we're definitely considering multiple things. We're definitely considering the location. The income might be a consideration if we're talking about investment property. Appreciation is obviously what we're talking about. Expenses, kind of borderline on, I guess if we're considering income, we're also considering expenses. The price, because right now we know if we buy this for $1 million and we're on a 3% annual appreciation and we're expecting to hold it for 5 years, that gives us 1.15, so we're considering price. Definitely considering leverage. So obviously if you're in up appreciation and you're able to get financing options, it's probably easier for you when appreciation is higher, more banks are lending. It's just an easier way to get leverage. Financing terms might be more favorable. Financing principal reduction, tax benefits, I don't know, I'll leave that one in the gray area tax bracket as well. Rent increases, I don't think when you're thinking about appreciation, you're doing that deep of an analysis. Other tax incentives, probably not, maybe. Reinvestment of cash flow, in this scenario, again, what are we looking at? We're looking at a 3% increase over a holding year period. So an reinvestment of cash flow, I don't think so. Closing costs, probably not. Capital gains tax, definitely not. And risk. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 9 out of 16. Again, if you haven't seen that other video where I talk about these 16 elements that we look at, again, the investor that showed me this, he showed me 12. Afterward, we added 4 as our experience grew. So this isn't the only items you have considered. You might be an investor that considers 25 items in order for you to invest. That's okay. You might be a starting up investor where the only thing that matters for you is, you know, I don't know, maybe you're faced with capital gains tax right now. So maybe your biggest concern is capital gains and you're not so concerned about your leverage or other items. So it really depends on where you are. But again, in this scenario, when we're looking at straight line appreciation, and that is the method where we are considering to invest into our real estate, you know, 9 out of 16 is better than 0 out of 16, but I think there's much more to be considered. So hopefully this has given you a good explanation of what appreciation is. Make sure you reach out to your local realtors, ask them, you know, for this class, in this location, where are we now with appreciation? You know, a good seasoned realtor, someone with a little bit of experience that has access to the data, that has access to the records of what has been sold, what are the transactions, what happened last year, what's the 5-year trend, what's the National Association of Realtors reporting. They should be able to get this information fairly quickly. Yes, if they're busy, you know, if you call me right now and say, hey, I'm looking to buy in this neighborhood, I say, well, give me 24 hours, or let me pass you along to someone on our team and we're going to get back to you by the end of the day. So don't expect that people are just sitting around waiting for your phone call telling you, hey, what's my appreciation? We do study the market. We do look at the market on a monthly basis and also on a weekly basis. On a monthly basis, well, let me take that back. On a weekly basis, we're studying the market for what is happening, what has sold, what is available, what's coming new. We want to know, so when somebody calls us, we're saying, yes, I know exactly what property you're talking to me about. That came on the market on Monday. It's Wednesday. I know exactly what you're talking about. Let me get you more details. Let's set up a time to look at it, or what other information can I get you. Obviously, on a monthly basis, we're kind of doing the same thing. And then on a quarterly basis is kind of where we're studying a little bit on the appreciation, where we're saying, okay, last quarter we had this total number of sales compared to the quarter before where we were at 3%. Looks like this quarter is slowing down a little bit. Maybe people are just getting back from vacation. Maybe it's different, or whatever the case, or maybe it's picking up. So you kind of do that comparison. And also at the end of the year, now that You know, this is being recorded in February of 2019, so we have pretty good statistics from 2018. So I could tell you, you know, this is what's happening in the Miami area in this specific neighborhood with this specific class, because we've already studied those numbers. But again, just know where you are. So hopefully this information has helped you. If there's any specific topic that I can cover that can help you, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Thank you and have an awesome day.